Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Federica. I'm an intuitive coach, and this is part two of my self-love interview series. And I'm very excited to have Matthew Rosewater with me. He is an intuitive energy worker and a natural living teacher, and also a colleague of mine, as he's also a certified completion process practitioner. He also has a website that's called planetascension.com where you can find all his services. And I'm really happy that you're here. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. So let's just dive in. Since this is
Totally.
a self-love interview series, how do you personally define self-love?
Self-love. It's such like an abstract topic for a lot of people, right?
I
It's
know.
like, oh, that's cute, that's trite, like I want that too. But what does it practically mean? So
Right.
I'd have to say for me, it's just literally listening to your body on all levels and doing what feels good. It's literally as simple as that for me. Like, what feels good? Um, so like this is like the most magnificent machine like you'll ever be given. And you want to make sure that it's running efficiently, that it's working, to its best ability. And in order to do that, you have to kind of tune into how you're feeling, whether it be emotionally, mentally, or physically. So for me, it's all about listening to the signs that my body is giving and then figuring out the best way to move forward, whether it's like the smallest little thing I do during the day. It's like the decision of, whether I drink water or whether I drink tea. Like it can be something small like that, or it can be a big
Okay.
decision, like whether I take this job or whether I don't. Um,
Right.
what's self-loving is going to feel good for you. So what you want to do is just follow the feelings, and that's what I try to do to the best of my ability. Of course, like I don't think anyone's perfect yet, to my knowledge, but you just do the best you can, and then there's a lot of things you can use. Like Teal Swan's offered a beautiful tool. It's like to ask yourself, what would someone who loved themselves do, and then act on the burst of intuition that comes to you.
Right.
Of course, I think we all try to do that as much as possible, but of course, there's times where things can get tough, and it's not easy to always take that route, or if it's a big decision. So I try to just do the best I can with making sure I feel good on as many levels as I can throughout the day.
Yeah. What do you think is the most important, or maybe even the most basic step that people can take? Because I feel like a lot of people may not even know what feels good.
Yeah,
What would you say is
totally.
the most important thing to do or to start with?
I think personally, just speaking from experience, like what really helped me to improve my state of self-love was to listen to my body. So one thing specifically, this is kind of going back to something Teal suggests, because I know we're both very into Teal Swan, so like hopefully a lot of the followers will kind of understand this a little bit as well. But one of the things that really made a huge difference in my life was something she suggested, where you set alarms once an hour on your phone or your alarm clock, and literally when those alarms go off, you check in to see how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically just kind of seeing if there's any sensations in the body, if you can identify any emotions going on, and then also what your needs might be in that moment as well. And that kind of it's like training a muscle that you're not used to exercising.
Right.
So the
And
more you do it, the stronger it gets, and the more you can really tap into how you're feeling and what's self-loving for you in that moment.
right. And to do that without judgment, right? To just see what's
Yes.
there without maybe you don't even interpret it. You just see what's there.
Such a good point. Yeah, you don't have to make any of it right or wrong for sure. It's just kind of like this is just what it is. This is where I'm
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
And only once you know where you are, do you know where how to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. I noticed that on your YouTube channel,
Hmm.
that's also called Planet Ascension, right?
Yes, it is.
You have a lot of videos on nutrition, lots of juices and stuff like that. Is
Yeah.
that part of your self-love journey, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Totally. Oh my gosh, yes, I love talking about this. It definitely is part of it. So it's been about over 5.5 years now that I've been on like a plant-based lifestyle. And I feel like just from starting that journey, it's kind of unlocked so many other things within my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things that it was really funny the way that it started. There was just a book I had read in an airport once because I just needed something to do, and it ended up being basically like an instruction manual on how and why to live a vegan lifestyle, which I hadn't. I thought it was just like one of those like fad diet books, like teaching me how to do something really quick to make me look good or whatever. I was in
Okay.
a whole different state of mind back then. But it ended up being something that really hit me at the heart level, and why like maybe things might not be so good for me that I was eating before.
What
And I
was
thought I
it?
would give
Sorry.
it a try.
Yeah. What was it that hit you at the heart level? Like what?
So a lot of the things in that book, it was really talking about a lot of different aspects of like the meat and dairy industry, why maybe that might not be so good for your health or for the animals, as well as like the environmental impact. It kind of hit like on so many different levels that made me really think differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would give it a try just to see like, well, let's see what this is all about, because it
Mm-hmm.
definitely affected me deeply. So I knew I had to do something with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I put myself on like a cleanse. After the cleanse was over, I'm like, this is it. I'm going to eat this way and just see how it goes. And within weeks, and I didn't, this is funny because I didn't realize I needed to feel any better. I just thought I was just going to do it because it felt like the right thing to do. But what
Mm-hmm.
I noticed was my body changing.
Okay.
I used to have like terrible allergies and asthma that within 1 month vanished completely, that I suffered with my entire life.
Wow.
I had like the most significant increase in like mental clarity and focus. My energy levels were skyrocketing. I just felt myself like being less reactive to things.
Okay.
All kinds of changes like were happening so quickly within my body where I'm like, wow, like I didn't know this was a feeling state that I could achieve. So I
Mm-hmm.
just kept following it and kept following it and going deeper and deeper. And it became such a passion of mine where like my hobbies when I wasn't doing anything like for work or whatever, hang out with friends, was literally learning more and more and more. And I just kept trying to pick up as much information as possible,
Yeah.
and it just became this like new passion of mine. So it's something that I've learned how to use for myself, for healing and for self-love. And now that I feel like I've gotten my feet wet with it for half a decade, that I'm starting to bring it out into the world and offering it to other people as well.
So you feel like that is an act of self-love in itself, like the way that you feed yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because something that we don't realize when we're not tuned into our bodies is how individual foods and beverages and just various lifestyle choices actually affect how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And when we become aware of how that actually works and how our body reacts to certain things, you really do tend to make different choices. And a lot of them do have to do with, diet and lifestyle. It's pretty amazing. So like once you make those few like subtle changes or even just think about things differently, it's
Mm-hmm.
amazing how your body responds to that. And then obviously self-love being correlated with what feels good, you kind of always want to choose those things instead. So it's kind of just
Yeah.
opening your mind up to different possibilities that maybe you weren't aware of that
Yeah.
existed before.
Where do you start though? Because I noticed in your channel, like your diet seems like extremely healthy, like perfect, more or less, right? And for someone who's just like starting out on this journey, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, like I can't do this." Like, so where do you start? Like, what would you tell people if they want to go slowly about changing their way of eating?
Totally. Such a good question because, yeah, I do get that quite often because I've kind of advanced on my journey a little bit more than what you would say somebody that starts off would, right? Because when you go into like this lifestyle of plant-based and vegan, it's so much more complicated than that because there's different levels of veganism, and then there's like raw veganism, and then we've got the breatharians making their appearance on the scene, right? So there's like, where on earth do I go with this?
Right, you're breaking up there for a moment. I hope you can still hear me. Ah, Skype, don't leave me.
And what I would say to do is just kind of educate yourself as much as possible. There are a few documentaries out there that are just really good as far as giving you the information on like what the food industry is like, just to kind of like open your mind up to different possibilities that I feel like make you a match to even more information. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not even about looking into changing your diet right away, but maybe just looking into like where's your food coming from, how is it being treated, what are the conditions look like that it's coming from. And there's one documentary on Netflix actually called Food Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Food Inc. that I think is like one of the number one eye openers I love to kind of introduce people to.
That's a
And that one
really
really
good
gives
idea.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
gives you kind of a good introduction about the food industry and how sometimes it can be really deceiving. It's like, you might be buying like, I don't know, like this carton of milk that has like this super happy farm and a smiling cow and like sunshine in the background, but then you visit where it's actually coming from and it's all doom and gloom. So it's just funny like how you can be marketed into thinking things are not only good for you, but they're coming from awesome places, which is typically not true. So that's the number one I think that kind of opens your mind, but it's like delicate enough where it's not making you feel like you need to go and change anything in your life. It's just more about expanding your knowledge. So I think starting there, see how you feel. But yeah, that video I have will have 4 more documentaries that kind of go even further if you feel that that's something that you want to try.
Mm-hmm. Just to go back to the beginning of what you said, because you were breaking up there for a moment. You were back on when you were talking about to get more information. So yeah. That's like I really like this approach of instead of going about changing something directly, going for like information. And did you say you had a video on your channel about that?
That's right, yeah. So on Planet Ascension YouTube, it's one of the first videos I made. It's just called like my top 5 documentaries that I think every human should watch.
Okay.
And those will definitely be on there. So Food Inc. is listed in that video as well as some others. And I kind of want to make an updated video because now that it's been a few years, so many other new ones have been coming out into the scene that I feel like almost top some of those. But that particular one I think would be a great starter for people.
That sounds really good. I want to also talk about completion process for a second. Because we're both certified completion process practitioners, and just for those people who don't know what it is, so it's a method of inner child work where you go back into your past and resolve past trauma in order to get a better life, if I can sum it up like that. Is doing the completion process for yourself and for others an act of self-love?
Oh my gosh, is it ever? Because it kind of opens your mind up to different ways of processing and integrating painful experiences. Mm-hmm. And something that Teal suggests that we do specifically is to kind of start your day with a meditation based off the completion process where you're kind of checking with your body just the very start of each day and just checking in to see if there's anything that feels unresolved within you, any kind of sensations that are coming up that might be left over from the day before, or maybe things that you didn't completely process in the dream time. So for me, I feel like it's the most self-loving thing I can do because I'm starting my day off on the right foot. And then I get to kind of start my day off in this like integrated state already where I can just kind of move about my day feeling good, not feeling like I have all these unresolved things that are being suppressed, because this is a process that really allows you to go deep into any uncomfortable or painful sensation or experience that's coming up for you and find resolution with it. So I feel like it helps me to, I guess, be less triggered throughout the day, which is, you know, great for me, which makes me feel good. So that's super self-loving. But also not even just when you're starting the day, like when things do come up for you that are really hard to cope with or to deal with, it helps you to move through it. And then you're really doing yourself a service, which is self-loving, because you're actually going to the root of the trauma that's surfacing for you and finding resolution with it so that it's not plaguing your life anymore. And in turn, you're becoming whole again. It's like that puzzle piece clicking back into place, right? Yeah. So you're actually doing yourself a healing service at the same time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for people who come with issues, they're going to totally understand where you're coming from. For people who say they live an okay life, they're not particularly like happy, they're not particularly sad. Why, like, people would ask me, why would I want to do this? Like, if I'm doing okay, why would I want to go look for something, you know, that was painful? Like, why would I want to dig this up? Like, what would you say to them?
Sure. So I have 2 different ways I think I can go with that. The first way is that, like, things are going to come up for you in your life experience that are painful, and they're going to come up when you least expect it. Typically, that's how triggers tend to work. We don't know. We can't pre-plan our triggers usually, right? So this process works beautifully because you really don't have to go digging for anything. It's going to be offered up to you when your being is ready to find resolution with it. And if for some reason you're not able to find resolution with it in that moment, you're going to get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity as you go down the road. So I think the beautiful part about this process is you deal with things as they come up and there's no having to go search for them.
Right.
But on the other side of the token, like for example, if nothing is coming up for you in the present moment and you feel okay, like you mentioned, how can this process be beneficial for you? That's, in the name of self-love. And what I would say to that is what this process does is the main component of it is called emotional vipassana, which I know you're familiar with. Essentially, that's just sitting with the emotions, whether they're good or bad. So if you are feeling in an okay state, you can still be spending time with those good emotions as well. And the best part about this process is the emotional vipassana. You are sitting with how you're feeling, and you're not running away from or avoiding it or suppressing it or coping with it or, you name it. So I think this process really helps you to trust yourself, because a lot of times with certain
Ooh,
feeling
that's a
states,
big
we like
thing.
to abandon how we're feeling, right? We like to go in the opposite direction and leave the aspects of us that are feeling that particular way behind. And
Hmm.
that kind of causes us to lose trust with ourselves. We're not sure like how to guide ourselves through life, because the emotional guidance system is how we know what's right or what's wrong for us. And when we're not following that or we're abandoning how we're feeling, that's when we get lost. That's when we get
Hmm.
stuck. That's when we get confused. So I think it's super self-loving to use this process no matter how you're feeling, because it's going to build that trust within yourself, and it's going to make you more tuned into how you're feeling, which in turn helps you to navigate your life even more beautifully.
Yeah. I love that you talk about trust because it's a really, really big thing. Like people don't even are not even aware of the role trust plays. Like even if you
Hmm.
like a lot of people will say, well, I would do this, but I can't because one, two, three, right? And it's
Yeah.
all coming back to a lack of trust in oneself, but also trust in the environment, the universe, God, or whatever, that you don't take that step, that next
Hmm.
step that brings you somewhere. So,
Absolutely.
in all interviews, I have a little authenticity moment where you get to ask me something.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah.
if I'm ready, if you
Okay.
have something that
Let
you
me think
want
about this
to
one.
know from me, now is your time.
Sure. So I would love to know one. It's like a two-part question.
Okay.
So for the first part, what is the biggest challenge that you've come across being a completion process facilitator that you've encountered in your life? One of the biggest challenges that you see living this lifestyle every day, being a facilitator, and then also what's the greatest thing that's come out of it for you?
Wow. So, one of the biggest challenges with the completion process in itself is that my biggest shadow is being skeptical.
Hmm.
So, I think in the training, I was the only one who was like, let's see if this can do anything for me, right?
Yeah.
And Teal knew this also. So, Teal Swan, the teacher. Um, but I knew that the only thing that I could do to get over this was to practice it more, right?
Hmm.
And what the challenge was that I came out of this being a little bit disoriented because I thought that I had resolved a lot of things, and I had, before because I had worked with hypnosis and stuff like that before. But the completion process somehow, I can't explain why, but somehow goes even deeper. And it was a challenge for me at first to accept that there's still something there. I was like, oh no, like I thought I had things figured out. Like, now I'm even more confused. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I saw really, really beautiful things. And that is, for example, as soon as I came out of the training, I saw pretty much all my friendships go to a completely new level. And also people that I had never met before or like were friends of friends. Like I think that was like the weekend after I came back from the training, I had her crying in my arms, and these things never happened before. Like just the conversations I have and the level of depth that I have with people is just so much deeper, and that's so beautiful. Like my level of empathy has gone through the roof, and I would say that's a huge improvement in the quality of my life as well.
Hmm.
What was the other part of the question? Remind me.
Yeah, just like the best thing that's come out of this for you.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best things, and also that I
Yeah.
really enjoy doing CP. I just really enjoy it. I love seeing the transformation of people. Um, and it's super super beautiful. I just love it. Um, you were also asking me about the challenges of daily life being a facilitator. I don't know. I don't see it so much as a challenge. You just see through a lot of behaviors.
Hmm.
Um, you know, like you can't really be mad at anyone anymore. You know, like you cannot
That's true.
judge that easily. I will always be the one who says, yeah, but you have to see, like, probably there was this and this and this in this person's life, and somehow they learned to behave like that, you know?
Hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing on the one hand, but on the other hand, sometimes it's like, can I not just say he's an asshole? You know, like,
Totally.
like,
Your authenticity just wants to shine through in every moment.
right. And you do have to keep that balance because to a certain degree, I think it's unhealthy to always have this higher perspective of seeing behind, you know, the what's
Hmm.
presenting itself, you know, because you still are a human being right here, right now, and if you get hurt, you get hurt, no matter if you
Yep.
can see through the other person's behavior. So,
Amen. That is such a good point because so many people can use those kind of spiritual truths and oneness and things to bypass it, and they're not actually being present with themselves and being there for their emotions. So it's such a good point that you said that because when things happen to us, like even though we can realize like how separate it might be from us at a different level, that not might apply to us or be the most compassionate belief or standpoint or universal truth to be reciting in the moment that we're experiencing pain.
right. So for me, like that's also like the most self-loving thing that I can do, and which is also beautiful through the completion process. Then I will actually sit with that emotion that came up, like to like put this part of me that sees through the other person and through all the reasons, put that aside and just go with, you know, okay, like what's happening inside of me, you know? Yeah. Oh, that's a cool question.
Love
Thank you so much for that.
Oh, of course. I loved hearing your answer.
So, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they totally can. You can find me a couple different ways. I have Matthew Rosewater as my main Facebook profile where you can find me on there. I also have planetascension.com, Planet Ascension Facebook page, Planet Ascension Instagram, and all my contact information can be found on those pages.
Awesome. And so you have different services. Do you want to just quickly say, oh, you have the completion process, and what else do you do?
Yeah, sure. So I do the completion process. I've also gotten into my tarot reading abilities. So I offer a couple different tarot services and intuitive services as well. And I also am doing natural health and living, like kind of like a coaching session, so to speak, just to kind of discover where you are and where you want to be. And then based on my life experiences and things I've researched and learned, we try to find a way that works for both of us to kind of get you to where you want to be. So whether it's like finding maybe more natural alternative to healing a particular part of the body, whether it be transitioning into a plant-based lifestyle or just looking at a situation from an entirely different viewpoint. We're here to kind of explore all those things together. And everything can be done online for all the sessions via Skype or email or phone, whichever. But I'm also in the Portland, Oregon area here as well in the United States, and I can do all of these services in person. And I also just got accepted to a local metaphysical shop as their resident shadow worker slash
Oh,
completion
nice.
process facilitator where you can come see me in person if you'd like to.
That's amazing. Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so, so much for this interview. I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed speaking to you and hearing your perspective. And
Yeah, it was so
yeah,
fun. I love getting to know you too. This is kind of one of our first interactions for all the listeners as well.
I
So
know.
this is the beautiful part about this. Like, look how many people get to come together and the friendships that get to form. Like, this is one of my favorite parts about all of this.
Absolutely. I totally love it. This is how social media should be used, by the way.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's an in alignment way for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I wish you a beautiful day. It's evening here in Germany, but it's like the morning hours in Oregon.
Mhm.
So I'll just say bye, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been such a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.